Welcome back to Vision Pros. This is going to be a very interesting conversation. Today we have Jonathon Aslay, and he's calling in from Los Angeles, California. Jonathon, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. Would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Sue. I appreciate it. So my name is Jonathon Aslay, as you just shared. I'm professionally, I'm a dating and relationship coach, but I really emphasize the importance of individual empowerment more as the crux of a healthy, happy relationship. So while I tend to guide men and women in finding and keeping the right relationship, it really starts with finding and keeping the right relationship within yourself. So that's where I spend more of my time, even though I talk about online dating and all the different, issues that people are faced with when it comes to meeting and keeping a relationship.
Oh, that's incredible. That plays right into what I would love to ask you here is, what is your vision for those that you're serving? I know today in the dating world, this is crazy stuff compared to anything that's been there for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
It's happening a lot differently now. So given today's climate, how do you help, who are you helping? What problem are you helping them solve? What is your vision for solving or for serving these people?
Well, that's a really big question. So let me try to parse this out in a couple different ways. It's interesting. I was watching a video the other day. It said the 80s are calling you back. And this was 1985. And how the world was so different before the internet, computer, and smartphone, at least accessible to the general public. They'd been around for a while. And how the world has changed so much, particularly in the area of connecting and meeting people. And it's interesting that in the last 10 plus years, online dating now represents about 65% of all new relationships. And let me reframe that, the internet, because there could be other chat rooms and other ways people are connecting. But 65% of all new relationships seem to begin with some sort of online connection.
Wow.
And why this is so pivotally important is that, for the most part, we're meeting total strangers. Unlike, 50, 100 plus years ago, we mated within our tribes, we mated within our communities, we mated within our culture and that sort of thing. So things have changed dramatically. And I think because of that, there is so much confusion. There's so much frustration, quite frankly, because it now invites in people who are emotionally unavailable. It invites who would like to have some level of connection, but not fully committed relationships. As one example, it invites in scam artists. It invites in people who are players and users. So there's a lot more filtering involved than maybe we had done in the past, because we for the most part, we always connected with somebody that knew the person we were connecting with. There was like no degrees of separation. So why am I sharing this? My vision has always been, the vision I've served is helping humans become way more discerning in the process. And I don't mean like filtering out, and making it complicated, but to be more intentional in the process of human pair bonding, to have grown-up conversations. And Sue, let me say why I'm saying grown-up, because men and women oftentimes operate from a fantasy perspective when it comes to human pair bonding, or worse. Well, actually, fantasy would be worse. The other is that chemistry equals relationship success. And sadly, we've adopted fantasy or chemistry equal relationship success as the barometer for who you're going to invest time in. And my vision is to be the wake-up call. My vision is to scream at the top of my lungs, look, first off, we are all emotionally messed up. It's just a matter of degrees for some people. But if you haven't worked on your own stuff, the idea that a relationship is going to heal that is going to be the furthest thing from the truth, because it's going to trigger relationships. By the way, I think dating and relationships trigger the number one emotional health issue I think most people face. And that is, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not likable. And so So my vision has always been to encourage intentionality, to encourage discernment, and most importantly, to encourage self-love. Because when we operate as more of a sovereign being, we can show up to be in relationship in a more healthy way versus the unhealthy way most people have operated. So I mean, and I can keep going. By the way, Sue, I can keep going. So if you
Well,
have
I
any
mean, it's,
questions within that,
yeah,
I'm letting you take
this
the
is
floor.
incredible. I feel like you have your work cut out for you, Jonathan. Like
Yeah.
there's so much. I didn't realize these statistics, but it makes sense. And my goodness, there's never been a time where we needed this a little bit more. Anybody who's out there trying to find, another human to bond with and to pair off with, it's crazy out there. And you sound like you might be the voice of sanity to help.
Well, it's interesting because unlike many of my contemporaries that, for lack of a better word, sell false hope, I'm kind of the Pied Piper going, look, it's the Hunger Games out there. It's a mess. I mean, we humans are radically dysfunctional. But I don't know if you remember in the Hunger Games, there's something about like they said, may the odds forever be in your favor. And there were even there were people that could help put the odds in your favor. Well, a really good coach, a really good mentor or confidant in your life can start putting the odds in your favor. And the most important person is to recognize that it's not about finding another human being to, at least in my mind, let me put it that way. Your happiness shouldn't be predicated on finding someone to be partnered with, because it really is about finding the relationship within yourself. We can go to the mirror and have an amazing relationship with ourselves that can absolutely fulfill us. Okay. But if you're seeking, and a lot of people unconsciously do this, they seek relationships with other people to fulfill their life. And what's the definition of insanity? For a lot of people, it's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So a person like myself that screams at the top of their lungs and saying, look in the mirror and work on your own stuff. My hope is my message, my vision is coming across as encouragement. And again, I can be very bombastic at times. I can be sarcastic. I can be righteous in all of this when I share. But what I think my vision has been to encourage individuals to take personal empowerment within their lives, particularly in the area of dating and relationships.
How do you think that could change the world? Because it sure seems like it could. What happens if, some double the number of people who act like, who show up in the world like that, like you're saying, taking personal responsibility and working on themselves first? What if that doubled? What might happen in the world?
That's an interesting question. I think globally, well, okay, let me speak here in the United States because I can't really know other parts of the world. I do believe we are being called to emotionally, for lack of a better word, grow up. Okay. And unlike about 100 years ago, I'll say women in particular were very dependent upon men for survival. And thankfully, we've evolved to a space in humanity, at least again here in the United States, that women have their own empowerment. They are no longer in a space of dependency. And I think that's an amazing place to be. And so relationships are not so much about, survival per se. And there is an element of certainly paying your bills and that sort of thing. I mean, that's important. And for some relationships, it might be that there's a hierarchy in that. But I think relationships nowadays, if it's no longer about survival, then it's really about emotional maturity to some degree. And I think we humans have weak emotional maturity and poor relationship skills. So if we have weak emotional maturity and poor relationship skills, it's one of the reasons why divorce rates for second and third marriages equal 65 to 75%. Okay, let's exclude the first marriage, but the second and third, that tells us, I believe that tells us that humans are not good at this. So I mean, come on. I mean,
You're right.
listen, we're not good at this. I mean,
We are not good at this.
yeah. I mean, by the way, would you get on an airplane that had had you know, a failure rate of 65 to 75%?
Not
And
knowingly.
yeah. So I think if it doubled, and the reason why I'm talking about the second and third marriages is because I speak to a demographic called midlife, which is after baby. What I say is after baby making years and before retirement. And roughly, and this is anecdotal, 75% of people over 45, 50 years old most likely are divorced if they're single. I mean, we have some widowers in there and we have some non-married, and that's anecdotal. I mean, that's not an absolute number. I don't think they've tracked it. So if all of a sudden we improved, you know, on an emotional maturity level, on a relationship level, I think we would start to see a bit more joy and happiness, because I believe it was Esther Perel who said the quality of our life is predicated by the quality of our relationships. And so you think about it, you can, if you're in a miserable relationship, you're going to have a miserable life. If you're in a happy relationship, you're going to have a happy life. So, so if we learn these skills, we would see a lot more joy from people.
I think that's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Get to work, mister.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question then. It kind of goes hand in hand, but a little bit different. What's your vision for your business? Like, this is a huge mission that you're on, like to move that slider a little bit further, to create that ripple effect that would go in from people having satisfying, deeply enjoyable, whole, healthy relationships. That would change a lot of things. But
yeah,
how about, you know, your vision for your actual business?
So it's kind of interesting because I'm in a state of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reinvention. I'm in a unique state. And I think it's important I share a little bit of my backstory to kind of give you a little inkling into where I think I'm going. So coming back to divorce, 20 years ago, my now ex-wife and I filed for a divorce. And during that time, I had lost my high-end corporate job. Literally the same month we had filed for divorce, I lost my high-end corporate job. And then shortly thereafter, there was the market crash of 2008. And my identity was pummeled. I mean, my identity was pummeled. And interesting enough, besides drugs and alcohol, online dating was my other drug of choice. Unbeknownst to me, it prepared me for this evolution in my life of becoming a dating and relationship coach. And there's way more to that story. I can share it another time. And I've been in the dating marketplace for the last, you know, up until the last 20 years, or up until last 6 months. I've been in the dating marketplace, much like my clients, and I've had 2 significant relationships during that time that didn't work out. But I had a tremendous amount of growth emotionally. I had a tremendous amount of awakening to my own sovereignty, to my emotional maturity and my relationship skills. And now I find myself in what feels like, for the first time in my life, a secure relationship. What I mean is I'm deeply care for someone. I'm very much in love. I believe she's in love with me. And I know she is, but I just want to say it with a little reservation because she's not here sharing it. And I kind of achieved my goal. I think for the last 20 years, I've wanted that life partner. And now I have it. And I'm like, you know, teaching about dating and relationships has a different tone to it because I was in the trenches with everybody else. And now I have what I want. And I'm like, well, then what do I really want for my life? And I've been wrestling with this. In fact, she and I just this past weekend, we were having it like, what do you really desire? What's your vision? Because for the longest time, I taught from in the trenches. And if I'm in a happy relationship, and then I've been sitting with something for a very long time. I started a membership program about 8 years ago. And I realized that it didn't really take off the way I wanted. And because of it, I kind of didn't give the kind of attention that I'd hoped for. And the idea was to be able to share wisdom, to be able to speak from a place of experience at a relatively low entry point financially for people, because I've spent tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars on personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy, probably close to six-figure number over the last 20 years. And I'm very grateful for the investment. But I know a lot of people don't have the resources to get that kind of help. And reading a book, and by the way, behind me, you can see a bunch of books, and this is just a small segment of my library. I believe there's so much wealth in books, but there's also the benefit of having a coach, having a mentor, having a confidant to help you. And yet for so many people, that's difficult to obtain. So I'm really I'm in the process of revamping my membership program, so I can hit the key areas of life: loving yourself, loving other human beings, and loving life. And that's kind of the umbrella I'm working towards. And I still don't even know the pieces of this puzzle yet. And I want to share with you, about not quite a year ago, I was burnt out. I was just like, God, I am so burnt out on all of this. And I feel like I'm pushing the boulder up the hill and just feeling really burnt out. And I felt a little bit of the pressure to perform. I felt the pressure to make money. I felt all this pressure because in some level, I don't want to say I stopped loving what I did, but I recognize that it's a real big behemoth to let me reframe that. There's a lot of dysfunctionality in the world. I mean, even watching the news is so painful at times that I'm struggling to watch the news, and even watching my social media feeds can be draining. And I reached a point where I'm like, God, I don't want to say I want to give up, but I was just feeling burnout. But I've been here before. In fact, I've been here 2 or 3 times in my life in this same space. And in the past, I would literally be pushing the boulder up the hill. And yet things seem to work out. So I really began adopting a feeling of trust, of faith. And I don't mean blind trust or faith. I don't want to make it just that, but really just faith in myself, that an answer would reveal itself. And you've literally caught me at a moment in my life where the answer, like, these are starting to percolate in front of me. I've been feeling kind of down for a while, not depressed or anything like that, but just not my excited self. But a few things, just literally, even in the last few days, things have been percolating. And I'm just in a place of trust that I can birth something new. And my vision is to make a difference in people's lives. My vision is to, help someone say, I really love getting I love getting messages through my social media. You made a difference in my life. You made a difference in my life. And that fuels me. A little vanity in there, a little bit. I'm going to be candid, but it fuels me to know that something I said, and I'm hoping this conversation, person goes, God, I mean, you're encouraging me to step outside of my comfort zone. And there was a quote I heard 20 years ago. It's a Walt Disney quote, and it's rather simple. It's only 3 words, but it's been the driving force in my life. And it's just simply, it's keep moving forward. And I know that's so simple, and for some people might seem trivial, but there's just something about just even one little step forward in whatever you're doing. One little step can start that snowball effect. And so that's kind of been my mantra, is just keep moving forward, and with this vision of making a difference in people's lives.
I love that. I think that is so exciting. There's so much room for what this could turn into. Who knows? But having that driving passion to make an impact in people's lives, and this deep body of knowledge and expertise that you've built in an area that people are really hurting. I can't wait to see what happens next. We're definitely going to have to continue this conversation for sure.
It's interesting. I have a 29-year-old son, and I've encouraged him to seek me as his wise counsel. For the last decade, I've been, and he's always been good about seeking advice from me. But I've noticed that he doesn't come to dad anymore like he used to. And I happen to personally know two other people that he seeks counsel from. One is a clinical psychologist who encouraged him to get his doctoral program. And my son just started his doctoral program to become a clinical psychologist. And then another is his boss, who runs an intervention company, and my son works within the organization. And both men, I've recently just seen them physically. We live near each other. And I said to them both separately, I go, I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate the guidance, the care, the love you give to my son. And they're both like, you have a great kid. I mean, even though he's a man, in my eyes, he's still a kid, but you've got a great son, and we love helping him. Why I'm sharing this is I completely believe that we all could use a good confidant or two or three in our lives. I mean, a really good, solid mentor, confidant in our lives, because we, this thing called life isn't like there isn't necessarily a book per se. Some people would say the Bible's the roadmap. And to that degree, if that works for them, it's great. But this thing called life is not easy to navigate. And going to people who are a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and that's what I feel like I am. I've been around the block a few times, and I like to share wisdom in that confident kind of way, because when we have a confidant in our life, we feel safer to open up on the sometimes things that bring us down. And I'd say my other vision is to encourage people to open up, because if you stuff it all in, that's where disease comes from. And if we can, and I know you're the same as I am, if we can encourage that opening up, that place of growth, I think people will live more fulfilled lives.
I think you're right, Jonathan. That's so cool. All right, where can people find out more about you and working with you?
By the way, I had to write something down. That's why I looked down. I wanted to write something. So where you can find me, my name is listed here, Jonathon Aslay. You can cut and paste that, put it in Google. The first thing that will come up is my YouTube channel. I'm very proud. I have over 200,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel sharing about relationships. I have a couple sub channels related for helping in different facets of your life. Certainly my website, jonathonaslay.com, is listed there, my social media pages, and you can go to Amazon to get my book. It's right behind me, called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, Spiritual Work, and Encouraging Therapy, for those that want, I believe we're all seeking a level of inner peace, and emotional health is one of the greatest challenges we're faced with. And if we can work on ourselves a little bit each day, you'd be surprised how life can be better once we take personal responsibility for our choices.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. That's fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.